Here at present I felt afresh, for I had felt it again and again how my equilibrium depended on the success of my rigid will, the will to shut my eyes as tight as possible to the truth that what I had to deal with was, revoltingly, against nature. I could only get on at all by taking nature into my confidence and my account, by treating my monstrous ordeal as a push in a direction unusual, of course, and unpleasant, but demanding. After all, for a fair front, only another turn of the screw. In the winter of 1895, a depressed and disheartened Henry James is grappling with the failure of his most recent play, Guy Domville. He finds himself sitting down with the Archbishop of Canterbury, as you do, and the Archbishop tells him a story that leaves James shaken. That night, the writer rushes home and he scribbles the following into his journal. Note here, the ghost story told to me at Addington, evening of Thursday the 10th, by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The story of the young children, left to the care of servants in an old country house through the death, presumably, of parents. The servants, wicked and depraved, corrupt and deprave the children. The servants die, the story vague about the way of it, and their apparitioned figures return to haunt the house and children to whom they seem to beckon. It is all obscure and imperfect, but there is a suggestion of strangely gruesome effect in it. And so the seed was planted, and from it grew the turn of the screw. In Henry James's lifetime, he wasn't really as successful for fiction as he would have liked to have been. He made his money through journalism and only really wrote fiction as a hobby. He knew that to make this book a success, he had to attract a modern American audience, and to do that, he had to make the book as terrifying as possible. He ended up writing a story so frightening that he himself was afraid to walk upstairs to his bedroom after reading the final version. When it was released as 12 separate serialized issues in the New York Tribune. The Independent called it the most hopelessly evil story that we could have hoped to have read in any literature. Ainley's magazine said that this book was not safe to give as a Christmas gift. I don't know about you, but if I had written a horror book and these were the reviews, whether they were intended to be positive or not, I think I'd be pretty happy with them, I think. Since then, this book has inspired many stories and some movies as well. In fact, one of the movies that was based on this book stars my second cousin, Michelle Dockery.
They don't care.
Who said that?
I'm your subconscious. They're not interested.
Not interested in what?
The viewers don't care about your second cousin being Michelle Dockery. It's not even a first cousin. They're just interested in the book. Just get on with it. Get on with it.
Yeah, I just thought it was
want you to get on with a bloody book. Get on with it. Just get on with it. Get on with it.
I think the opening scene of the book just does a really good job at setting the tone. It's a chilly Christmas Eve. There's a group of friends all gathered together and they're all sharing ghost stories inside in the warmth while it's snowing outside. One of the guests says, "Listen, you've all told great stories, but I have a story so chilling that it's going to beat everything that you've heard here tonight. And actually, I can't just tell it off the top of my head. This is a true story. And so I'm going to send my servant away to go and get the manuscript and bring it back to me." I really love this extra layer that's been added to the story. I think it's important because this story easily could have been told as a first-person perspective, and in a way it is, but just knowing that actually this is a journal that we're going to be reading or a diary that we're going to be reading, it just gives that extra layer of authenticity and intimacy with the main character, the protagonist. So this is where the story properly begins, and we're introduced to an unnamed protagonist who I'm going to refer to in this review as the governess. She's offered a job by a dashing young gentleman who she's quite attracted to, and the job is to look after his nephew and his niece. one of the stipulations of the job is that she has to take complete control pretty much of every situation, and under no circumstances should she reach out to him. She's in it on her own, basically. She arrives in this mansion in the English countryside, and she meets the kids, and they are perfect little angels, it seems like. The house is beautiful. Her quarters are lovely. She has to share him with the girl, which is a bit annoying. But other than that, it's just like a dream job. She can't believe her luck. That's when things start to get spooky. I think really the biggest question in the book is the governess a reliable narrator? Are the ghosts real, or is everything just happening in her head? Very often, she's the only person who sees the ghosts, and she's the only person who seems to be able to interact with them, even though she's convinced, no, I'm not the only one. Some people are lying here. There's an ulterior motive going on. This kind of uncertainty keeps us guessing who we're supposed to be afraid of and who we are supposed to be afraid for. Is this a ghost story about two spooky kids that can communicate with ghosts, or is this a story of a woman who is slowly losing her mind as she becomes more and more of a threat to children that she's supposed to be protecting? And the good thing about this is that the ambiguity puts you in the shoes of the governess herself as she tries to understand what is going on here. There are even scenes where she kind of doubts herself. She's like, am I crazy? Am I crazy, or are there ghosts? And it's not just her situation that is mysterious. She herself is mysterious. We don't know her name. We don't know where she's come from. It seems as though she's just entered into this situation from one dream into another. Everything's a little bit misty. What we do know about her makes her very easy to root for. We know that she's from humble beginnings. We know that she genuinely does care about these children, and she is determined to protect them, even if it means putting herself at risk. The tragedy of that is that it might be her that they need protecting from. I'd say Miles is a really great character just because he's probably the scariest thing about this whole book. He's way more scary than the ghosts, honestly. Very early on, we discover that he's been expelled from school, but the reason that he's been expelled is never really clearly defined. And it seems in contrast to his kind of angelic, innocent appearance. With that said, he does like to be seen to be naughty. He likes people to know that he can be naughty if he wants to be. And he has secrets as well. He likes to creep around in the middle of the night for reasons that we don't fully understand. He also seems way too mature for his age in the way that he acts and the language that he uses when he communicates with the governess. I think he calls her dear heart or something like that. Oh, dear heart. Oh, whatever is the matter, dear heart? This little creep. He's also able to keep such an eerie calm in distressful situations. I mean, this probably says more about me than about any of the characters in this book, but whenever I see a kid who's too mature for their age or too polite, it creeps me out. I'm just going to say it. It creeps me out. There is such a thing as too polite, isn't there? You know what I mean? Oh dear heart, whatever happens to be the matter? Is there anything I can be of assistance with? Creepy. I'm going to talk a little bit about the writing style, which, you know, straight off the bat, I'll just say it wasn't for me. You know, it's very dense. Henry James is known for his long sentences with lots of clauses, and that can make the language feel rich, yeah, but also a little bit distracting. And look, it could be that I'm just not sophisticated enough to appreciate the genius of Henry James. That is definitely a possibility. But other than the passages where there was a lot of dialogue, at which points it really flowed well. Other than that, it was just difficult for me to get into the story sometimes. It felt like Henry James was over my shoulder, kind of going, oh, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that little turn of phrase, huh? Do you like that? Yeah. How'd you like the way I described how the clouds looked and the mansion silhouetted? But you know, how'd you like that? Yeah, really good, Henry James. Yeah, thanks, Henry James. You are a wonderful writer. Yeah, do you think yeah, I am a good writer, aren't I? Yeah. What about the setting sun? Yeah, do you like that? Yeah, really nice, that bit. I was really happy when I wrote that. You know what I mean? It was just, I never could just get into the story. And I think it's just one of those things where some writers like to be remembered for their books, and some writers like to be remembered for their writing, right? They like to be remembered for, he was a great writer. And I think that Henry James is in the latter category. You know, I'm not going to get too deep into spoiler territory. I did with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when I gave that review, but that's because it's such a famous and well-known book. This is obviously a very famous and well-known book, but not to that degree, you know? So I'm going to just not give any spoilers. But I will ask this one question. Are the ghosts real? Did you, if you've read this book, did you think that the ghosts were real? Or did you think that she was having a mental breakdown? I'd be really interested to know your thoughts and the reasons why you believe that as well. Let's get a conversation going in the comments section. Can't wait for that. That's going to be a lot of fun, actually. I'm really genuinely looking forward to that. Okay, so I'm going to get to the ratings now. Just a reminder that this is book 2 of 10 classic horrors that I'm going to be reading this month. After I've given the ratings, I'll talk about book number 3. All right, so let's get into the ratings. Okay, so the plot, I'm going to give the plot 2 stars. And it's, you know, it's hard to give anything more than 2 stars for plot with a book that relies so much on ambiguity. You know, it's a very simple story. A woman is caring for 2 children in a house that might be haunted. That's it. So the plot, very, very simple. I'd say the book relies more on what it doesn't say than what it does say. So for that reason, 2 stars for the plot. The characters, I'm going to give 4 stars out of 5. I really liked the governess. Miles freaked me out so bad. And I actually liked another character who I haven't really mentioned yet. Her name was Mrs. Gross, and she was kind of like the maid. Was she the maid of the house, or she was supposed to be the assistant of the governess or something like that? The reason I liked her is that I could never work out what her true intentions were and why she was saying the things she was saying. Was she saying them to placate the governess, or was she genuinely in agreement with her? Yeah, she was kind of a mysterious figure. Setting, I'm going to give the setting 4 stars out of 5. You know, it was quite a simple setting. English countryside, haunted mansion. It really felt fully realized when they were walking around, the dewy morning and the fog, when they were walking through the corridors by candlelight. I could very clearly visualize everything. It felt really real. Originality, I'm going to give it 3 stars out of 5. Even for the time where this was written, I think that haunted houses were explored territory. Overall, I'm going to give this book 3 stars. I liked it, but it's not one that I'm going to be recommending that everyone has to read if you haven't read it already. It was decent, but I didn't enjoy it, for example, as much as I did The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I don't think this is going to be one of my favorite classic horrors that I read this month. And actually, I've got much higher hopes for my next book that I'm going to be reviewing, which is Dracula. Is Dracula worth the hype? Am I going to love it as much as a lot of other people seem to love it? This is an enduring story, one of the most famous horrors of all time, and it's written over 100 years ago. And if you'd like to see my review for Dracula, you can click up here. Listen, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it as always. Make sure to comment below if you have some thoughts about the turn of the screw, and happy reading. I'll see you in the next one.